The top stories. Commissioner of the Ethiopian National Dialogue says creating wider space for all actors is crucial to make effective national dialogue. And North Korea launches suspected ICBM after South Korea, US holds nuclear talks to deter threats. Hello and thank you for joining us. You're watching Addis News Hour with the news. I'm Tabitha John. To stay with us. Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Dammaqe Mokonnon received a delegation led by the Director General of the African Risk Capacity ARC Group, an African Union agency, Mr. Ibrahim Sheikh Diong today. During the meeting, Dammaqe said that it was a good opportunity to be a member of this emerging insurance group and said disasters, be it man-made or natural, are at times inevitable. However, it is the forecasting, preparedness and response to them that makes the difference. Mr. Dammaqe also said setting up an early warning national capacity and putting in place a robust response mechanism followed by rehabilitation and rebuilding works are essential steps to cope with disasters, and Ethiopia has been doing so through the National Disaster Prevention and Response Commission, which has a secretariat that is comprised of different line ministries. For his part, Mr. Ibrahim Diong congratulated Ethiopia for joining the ARC. He said a high-level delegation that accompanied him shows the strong partnership and collaboration ARC wishes to have with Ethiopia. The Director General expressed ARC's intent, sooner than later, to put in contact a technical working group with its Ethiopian counterpart, which would in turn yield a technical team that would work on issues such as the affordability of premiums and the need for subsidies, should there be any, and will produce a memorandum of understanding to be signed between ARC and Ethiopia per MOFA Ethiopia. The fourth round of trilateral negotiation among Ethiopia, Egypt and Sudan on the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam GERD kicked off today in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. The recent negotiations are being conducted following the joint statement by Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed of Ethiopia and President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi of Egypt on 13 July 2023 to initiate expedited negotiation to finalize the guidelines and rules on the first filling and annual operation of the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam GERD. The head of Ethiopian negotiating team, Ambassador Seleshi Bekele, said via a post on his social media page. Ambassador Seleshi indicated that the ministerial meeting will build on the discussions of the previous sessions and technical group meeting of yesterday and continue efforts to achieve convergence. He reiterated that Ethiopia is guided by the 2015 Declaration of Principles on the GERD project. In particular, Ethiopia will continue to advocate for consensual outcomes based on the principle of equitable and reasonable utilization of the waters of the Nile, Ambassador Seleshi underlined. Lada, the Russian vehicle manufacturer, inked a letter of intent with the Ethio Engineering Group to establish a vehicle assembly facility in Ethiopia. Suleiman Dedefo, CEO of the Ethio Engineering Group, and Ilya Savinov, Sales and Marketing Vice President and Exports Director of Lada, signed the letter of intent. During the signing ceremony, CEO Dedefo emphasized the potential for Russian investors to explore opportunities in mining, agricultural product processing, and technology sectors. He reasserted the government's commitment to extend the necessary support for Russian investors. The Ethio Engineering Group will commence the assembly of Lada's unfinished products, while at the same time handling the importation of necessary components, ensuring a steady supply of vehicles to the market. For his part, Savinov underlined that numerous Russian companies have expressed keen interest to invest in Ethiopia, according to our staff reporter Johannes Fentahun. Lada cars have enjoyed prominent presence on Ethiopian roads since the socialist era of Ethiopia 1970s. Renowned for their resilience and affordability, the brand has become a favored option among numerous drivers. Even today, the streets of Addis Ababa are adorned with the iconic blue and white livered 1970s model Ladas, serving as reliable taxis. Welcome back. The National Dialogue Commission says it is striving hard to resolve historical injustice by undertaking effective national dialogue across the nation. Talking to Addis Dialogue, Commissioner of National Dialogue, Jonas Adaye, states that creating wider space for all Ethiopians is critical to solve grievances. Haptamu Ashagwe tells you more.
The federal government established a National Dialogue Commission to hold effective national dialogue that brings sustainable peace across the country. As part of this move, Commissioner of the National Dialogue Jonas Adaye said that the Commission had the capacity to ensure historical injustice by undertaking effective national dialogue.
To address those historical injustices by balancing what is on the ground today. And the assumption is it just goes back to sort of philosophy of language. You can extract the ideas deep down when you dialogue. This dialogue, that is the art of thinking together, I putting myself in your shoes, you seeing my shoes from my perspective, so that both of us can come to sort of middle ground, and then this can sort of reveal, sort of revelation. Some people use old Hebrew term, abracadabra, that is, as I speak, I invent, they say. So this, as they speak, then they start to seeing each other's wound, trauma, injustices inflicted long ago, relating again to the current one, then they would definitely re-narrate, re-describe, rediscover, and finally come to a conclusion.
According to Adaye, the Commission is passing critical stages to commence effective dialogue by inviting all actors.
For those who were fighting against the government, who may not agree necessarily with the ideology of the government, it's also possible to facilitate for them to space, to make call. That's why we made a call, if you remember, Jafarao. We called upon all the fighting parties across Ethiopia and the government as well to unconditionally come to ceasefire and start talking and stop fighting.
The Commissioner further highlighted his commission is undertaking 5 critical steps to hold effective national dialogue across the country.
In Ethiopia's history, the 1960 Ethiopian coup d'etat attempt, in Amharic called Itasasu Girgir, was an attempted coup d'etat and a series of shootouts in the Ethiopian Empire on 13th December 1960 against Emperor Haile Selassie. The Council of the Revolution, 4 conspirators led by brothers Germame Nawai and Brigadier General Mengistu Nawai, commander of the Kebur Zabenya Imperial Bodyguard, sought to overthrow the emperor during a state visit to Brazil in order to reinstall a progressive government. The coup attempt is considered the most serious threat to Haile Selassie's rule between 1941 and his deposition in 1974 during the Ethiopian Revolution. Jerusalem Betzaha tells us more about the failed coup of 1960.
In 1956, Germame's brother Mengistu became commander of the Imperial Bodyguard, which had a force of 8,000 men. Germame succeeded in convincing his brother that an overthrow of the government was needed. Germame also won over the emperor's chief of security, Worqeneh Gebeyehu. These 3 men became the leaders of the coup that would be attempted while the emperor would be out of the country for 3 weeks in December of 1960. The coup was launched in the evening of December 13th. Overnight, the bodyguard troops had taken control of Addis Ababa's airport, banning all flights, had blocked all roads leading to the palace, had occupied the telephone exchange. At the palace, they detained the Empress and the Crown Prince Asfa Wossan that would address the numerous economic and social problems Ethiopia faced. They summoned over government officials to the palace and kept them locked in. When word got out that the bodyguard had taken over Addis Ababa, Dejazmach Asrat Kasa, Major General Merid Mengesha, and others banded together on behest of the army to form a force loyal to the emperor. Through the British embassy, they sent a telegram to the emperor, who was in Brazil, notifying him of the coup. The next day, on the 14th, Crown Prince Asfa Wossan went on the radio to announce the coup and the information of a new government and a pay raise for the armed force. Whether he did this willing or by force has remained a topic of controversy. However, the speech did not have the intended effect. Most felt that the Crown Prince gave the speech under duress. Imperial bodyguard troops, the majority of whom learned for the first time that they were fighting against the emperor when they heard the radio broadcasts, lost their willing to fight. On the final day of the coup, the 16th, the Air Force began dropping bombs and ground force began their attack on bodyguard headquarters. Knowing by this point that they were on verge of defeat, the conspirators asked the Americans to mediate. Fighting stopped while Germame and representatives from the army met at the U.S. Embassy. However, the army knew they had the upper hand and they would not accept anything less than immediate surrender, and as a result, nothing came of the meeting. Fighting resumed, and before the day ended, the conspirators lost hope and fled. Just before departing, they shot and killed 15 of their hostages. By this time, Haile Selassie also reached Eritrea. The next day, on the 17th, he reached Addis Ababa to the seat of his throne. Over the next few months, he promoted Asrat Kasa, Merid Mengesha, and others who had been loyal to him. He also had to increase the army's salary, hoping to quit those who may have sympathized with the conspirators. History documents indicated that official casualties were 324 dead and 785 injured. Germame was killed in fighting, and Mengistu was captured and later prosecuted and executed, while Worqeneh took his own life.
And finally, North Korea launched an intercontinental ballistic missile Monday morning in the space of less than 12 hours since it fired a short-range one last night. This comes after South Korea, U.S. nuclear consultative talks in Washington over the weekend on how to respond to Pyongyang's nuclear threat together. Goshu Meliso has more from Arirang News.